The Actors Shakespeare Project is opening its 13th season, dubbed Family Fault Lines, with arguably the world's most famous play, Hamlet. It is, of course, the story of the indecisive Danish prince at the center of this mix of ghost story, comedy, seven-murder revenge thriller, and a philosopher's goldmine. Directing a cast including his fellow resident acting company members is my guest, Doug Lockwood. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. First of all, let's talk about Hamlet. It's Shakespeare's longest play.
Yes.
How have you cut it down?
I've cut it a lot. Yeah, it's 4.5 hours if you don't do any cutting, and because our season is really we're calling it Family Fault Lines. I decided to really focus it down on the family, which I've always found the most interesting aspect about Hamlet. The political stuff has never done that.
You go for the incest.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's more interesting.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, there's a film called Queen Margot that I'm sort of using as my main source for this production. It is steeped in incest as well. It takes place in the late 16th century. And these themes of religion and incest and politics and how they all mesh together were of great interest to me.
One quick thing to say, Shakespeare's son, Hamlet, he died early, and I just wondered whether that was part of, you worked that in there. I guess it would be hard to do that, but I mean, obviously people noticed that his son's name was Hamlet, and this play is called...
There's a lot of autobiography throughout Shakespeare's work, so it is always interesting to articulate that stuff and see how it might fit in with the production.
Let me ask you, as a director, I think a lot of people are daunted saying, Hamlet, okay, that's a very famous, complicated play. You probably have to be a Shakespeare expert to do this. But I think that the Actors Shakespeare Project takes into account that most people don't know anything about it. Would you say that that is how you're directing it, that it's for the general public rather than nitpicking Shakespeare experts?
Absolutely, absolutely. And our thing is about clarity of text, trying to make the text incredibly clear and giving the audience an intimate experience. I think a lot of times people go to see Shakespeare plays and it's a lot of declaiming and shouting, frankly, and we're kind of about the opposite, about talking and making the words really relatable and understandable, and a lot of that is about physical proximity with our audience too. So we're always investigating that.
All right. Now we see from the poster here that you've cast one of your fellow resident members as Hamlet. What made you, was it just his acting skill, or is this alienation that maybe a black guy, sort of like Othello, where a black man in a white community? Or
there is a little bit of that for sure. Omar Robinson, who's playing Hamlet, I am a huge fan of his work as an actor and what he brings in terms of his intelligence and his wit and his improvisational skills is something I was really interested in. A lot of times Hamlet gets stuck into a kind of brooding, angsty kind of place, and I was interested in more than that, and Omar will not fall into that, I know. And also what you said, Omar is African American, and another actor called Peter Anderson is playing Horatio, who's Hamlet's best friend, and they are the only two African Americans in this predominantly white world. So we are absolutely leaning into that and what it says, to our culture today. Now,
how does the Church of the Covenant figure in your mind compared to Elsinore Castle? I mean, is the the cold structure, or
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing that the church is Elsinore Castle for this particular production. We're so overwhelmed to be in the Church of the Covenant. It's such a beautiful, beautiful space, and the text of Hamlet is so steeped in religion, and there's so much conflict and claustrophobia and wrestling with these themes of mortality and the afterlife and heaven and hell, and that while we may not wrestle as much today with those kinds of issues, although some of us do, very much a part of this Elizabethan world, and and clearly on Shakespeare's mind. So the church is becoming is a huge character in this production as well.
You see Laertes going to Catholic Paris where there's orgies going on, and Hamlet is going to, what is it, Wittenberg?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, the Protestant things there. And
exactly.
So you have two young men who have very different cultures that they're coming together.
Yeah.
Now you have a great other cast members, the guy playing Claudius and
Ross McDonald.
Yes, and Gertrude.
Mariana Basher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How are they? What sort of? It's not the lascivious part I'm asking, but
it'll hopefully be a little. It'll hopefully be a little lascivious.
Oh yeah, we want some of that. But I'm just saying, is it a marriage of convenience? Do you see between Claudius and Gertrude, or are they really in love or lust, or is Hamlet in love with his mother, as Freud says?
These are all great questions, and we're exploring all of them. To be frank, I really mean that. One thing I was interested in was the fact that Claudius is called Dead Hamlet's younger brother. So I have cast younger than usual cast for Claudius. So Ross and Mariana are a younger than usual Claudius and Gertrude, and I'm interested in how that works on Hamlet, who is quite close to his uncle Claudius's age, as sometimes happens in families. So yeah, and interested in the relationship between. Of course, both uncle and nephew, and between, as you talked about, between Hamlet and Gertrude, and those possible dynamics, which we are definitely also going to be investigating.
One other question about the casting, Ophelia. How do you see her? I mean, is she, Hamlet when he pretends to be mad, or is he really mad? These are things he doesn't even know himself, maybe.
Right. Well, Hamlet, we're pretty sure is putting on a bit of an act in his madness. Ophelia is not, tragically. She really does go mad. Although one thing that Purnima Kirby, who's playing Ophelia, and I have been discussing is doing it on her terms. So we know at the end of the play she presents various herbs in her mad scene to various people. So we're taking that and running with it to maybe she's been indulging in some, because she's just been dumped by her boyfriend Hamlet, who killed her father. She's taking some drugs. She's giving herself some hallucinations to escape this incredibly beyond painful experience that she's going through. So we're trying to, rather than just seeing the weepy kind of despondent Ophelia, we're trying to put her on a little bit of offense with that.
Well, we don't want to give any more secrets away. I think we've tantalized people. Is there information on your website about when the tickets are available? It looks like you have somewhat of a complicated schedule.
Yeah, the church presents some adventurous conflicts, but yeah, actorsshakespeareproject.org has all the information on tickets and dates and
more background on this. But we're glad to know this is a Hamlet for everybody.
Yes.
And it's a modern Hamlet, right?
Steeped in the 16th century, but resonating to us.
The perspective and
yes.
of the things there with you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Chris.